Hello, dear students. I am Miss Rasna Lakhotia, your biology teacher. Let's start with Chapter 3 Plant Kingdom. Dear students, in the previous chapter, we looked at the broad classification of living organisms under the system proposed by Whittaker, wherein he suggested the five kingdom classification: Monera, Protista, Fungi, Animalia, and Plantae. In this chapter, we will deal in detail with further classification within kingdom Plantae, popularly known as the plant kingdom. In this chapter, we will describe algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms under Plantae. Let us look at the various system of classification. Artificial system of classification. It uses morphological characters such as habit, color, number and shape of leaves, etc. It is based mainly on vegetative characters or on the androecium structure, that was the system given by Linnaeus. Artificial system gave equal weightage to vegetative and sexual characteristics. This is not acceptable since we know that often the vegetative characters are more easily affected by environment. The other system of classification was natural classification system. These were based on natural affinities among the organisms and considered not only the external features but also internal features. Such a classification for flowering plants was given by George Bentham and Joseph Dalton Hooker. Phylogenetic classification systems is the most acceptable system. It is based on evolutionary relationships between the various organisms. This assumes that organisms belonging to the same taxa have a common ancestor. We now use information from many other sources too to help resolve difficulties in classification. These become more important when there is no supporting fossil evidence, like numerical taxonomy. It is carried out using computers and is based on all observable characteristics. In this way, each character is given equal importance and at the same time hundreds of characters can be considered. Cytotaxonomy, it is based on cytological information like chromosome number, structure, behavior. And chemotaxonomy, it is based on the chemical constituents of the plant. Here in this slide, you can see the classification of kingdom Plantae along with their types and examples. Like kingdom Plantae, it is divided into, or it has five major classifications: algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. And their examples and the classes are mentioned here in this slide. Let us learn about algae now. Algae are the most primitive plants. They may be unicellular to up to 60 meter and are haploid in nature. Algae are chlorophyll bearing, simple, thalloid, autotrophic and largely aquatic. It can be found both in freshwater and marine environment. These are such kind of organisms. Some algae also occur in association with fungi, that is termed as lichen, and animals, example on sloth bear. There are various sizes and forms of algae. The unicellular motile, example Chlamydomonas. Unicellular and non-motile, that is Chlorella. Colonial forms, that is Volvox. Filamentous unbranched forms, that is Eulothrix and Spirogyra. Filamentous and branched, that is Cladophora. Marine and massive plant bodies, example kelps. So how does algae reproduce? So there are three major processes of reproduction in algae. Algae can reproduce by vegetative reproduction. It also shows asexual reproduction and as well as sexual reproduction. Vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation. Each fragment develops into a thallus. Asexual reproduction is by the formation of different types of spores called zoospores. They are flagellated that means they are motile, and on germination gives rise to new plants. And sexual reproduction is is through fusion of two gametes, male gamete and the female gamete. Sexual reproduction is again of three types: isogamous. If gametes are flagellated and similar in size, for example in Chlamydomonas, and if gametes are non-flagellated and similar in size, such as in case of Spirogyra. Anisogamous if gametes are of dissimilar in size, example some species of Chlamydomonas. And the third type of sexual reproduction is oogamous, in which fusion between one large non-motile female gamete and a smaller motile male gamete takes place. And the example of such algae is volvox. So algae has some economic importances. What are those? Let's see. Half of the total carbon dioxide fixation on Earth is carried out by algae through photosynthesis. Primary products of energy-rich compounds which form the basis of the food cycles of all aquatic animals. Many species of Porphyra, Laminaria and Sargassum are used as food. Certain marine brown and red algae produce large amounts of hydrocolloids, that is water holding substances, example algin, that is in brown algae, and kerosene in red algae. Agar, one of the commercial products obtained from Gelidium and Gracilaria. Gelidium and Gracilaria are the types of algae. They are used to grow microbes and in preparations of ice creams and jellies. So this agar is one of the commercial products that is used to grow microbes and in also preparations of ice creams and jellies. Chlorella and spirulina are unicellular algae which are rich in proteins and are used as food supplements even by space travelers. Those are single cell protein. The algae are divided into three main classes on the basis of pigment and stored food. So on the basis of the pigment present on them and the stored food, algae has three main classes: chlorophysae, phaeophysae and rhodophysae. So chlorophysae is the green algae. Okay, so algae are green in color, brown in color and red in color. So let's see the characteristic features of green algae. The plant body may be unicellular, colonial or filamentous. They are found in fresh and marine habitat. And green, the color is green due to pigments chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. The chloroplast may be discoid or plate-like. So chloroplast has various shapes. It may be discoid or plate-like. For example, in Eulothrix, it may be cup-shaped. Chloroplast may be cup-shaped. For example, in Chlamydomonas, it may be spiral or ribbon-shaped. For example, in Spirogyra. Pyrenoids located in the chloroplast membrane. There is a pyrenoids located in the chloroplast membrane of green algae which contains protein besides starch, and that protein is known as rubisco, and other may store food in the form of oil droplets. Green algae has rigid cell wall made up of an inner layer of cellulose and an outer layer of pectose. And the mode of reproduction in green algae is by vegetative reproduction, also by asexual reproduction. In this case, they produce, or asexual reproduction is by flagellated zoospores, that is produced by zoosporangia. And it is also it also performs sexual reproduction, maybe by isogamous, anisogamous or oogamous. Examples are Chlamydomonas, Eulothrix, Spirogyra, Chara and Volvox. All of these are the examples of green algae. These are the pictures of green algae. Next one is brown algae. Brown algae are also called calps or moss. They are found in marine habitats, present in from simple branched to filamentous form to profusely branched forms as represented by kelps. They possess chlorophyll A and chlorophyll C. They also contains pigments called carotenoids or xanthophylls, that is fucoxanthin. And food is stored as complex carbohydrates, which may be in the form of laminarin or mannitol. And cell wall in case of brown algae is made up of cellulose, and it also has outer coating of gelatinous substance algin. So this is a special feature of brown algae. It has cell wall made up of cellulose and outer coating of algin. Body is usually attached to the substratum by a holdfast and has a stalk, the stipe, and leaf-like photosynthesis organ, the frond. So generally the body of brown algae is divided into holdfast, stipe, and frond. The type of reproduction may be vegetative, asexual, or sexual reproduction. Examples of brown algae are Ectocarpus, Dictyota, Laminaria, etc. These are the pictures of this kind of algae. The third one is the red algae. Predominance of the red pigment are phycoerythrin, chlorophyll A and D. So red algae has chlorophyll A and chlorophyll D. Along with it, it has phycoerythrin that gives red color to this algae. Found close to the surface of water and also at great depths in oceans where relatively little light penetrates. So you can find red algae at the surface also and at the depth also. Here in this case, cell wall is made up of cellulose and covered with agaropactin. The food is stored as Floridian starch, which is very similar to amylopectin and glycogen in structure. Chloroplasts lack external endoplasmic reticulum and contain unstacked thylakoids. Reproduction is maybe by vegetative reproduction, asexual or sexual. Asexual reproduction by non-motile spores and sexual reproduction by non-motile gametes. Sexual reproduction is oogamous. If you remember oogamous, the size of the gametes are dissimilar. One is large and other one is the female egg is large and the male gamete is smaller in size. Examples of red algae are Polysiphonia, Porphyra, Gracilaria and Gelidium, that is PP, GG. You can remember the example in this manner. So in the next class, we'll learn about other three major divisions of plant. Till then, you revise about algae.